Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. So I'm continuing on with this build of these Barnstormer 25S kit. So what I did off camera is I went ahead and I put my decals on, pretty much for the most part. I don't know if I'll do more or not, but I did put the decals on just to get that step out of the way. So here I have a 20. I have I used the OS engine came with some stickers. That was pretty cool. So I put this little FP on here. The back of it has, on the tail, on the rudder, has this, this came with the decal set, this that I bought from Major Decals. It's sort of like a hammer with some wings on it. I think it's a military thing. And then the wing itself is has this roundels on it, these roundels on it, just on both sides. I didn't do anything on the bottom, so there it is on both wing tips, and then nothing on the bottom. The only thing you can see from the bottom is just that it's going to be just a olive drab color. So that's pretty much the color scheme. I'm not sure if I'll add anything else to that, but I did want to get that finished up and kind of out of the way. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to starting to put the hardware on the plane now, including the engine, the tank, the electronics, the connections, the push rods, the wheels, all that stuff. I don't know if I'll get it all done in this video, but I'm going to see how far I can get. So let me get this stuff out of the way and we'll start looking at the engine mount. So on the plans here, you can see I measured this, and it's about the back of the spinner, or the would be about 1/4 inch from the end of the tip of these mounting rails, and that's easy enough. So I'm just go ahead and I'll measure that, and we'll see where that is, and then I can mark it to drill the holes out for the bolts. Okay, well, since I don't have a cowl, this doesn't have to be perfect. If you're doing a cowl, then it gets a little bit more tricky, because you have to make sure you get the propeller located in the right location relative to the end of the cowl. But all I have to do here is just get this close on here, and I think I'm right about there. I don't even know, as long as it sits out and it's close enough, I'll be all right. So that's a little over 1/4 inch, and I can kind of push it back a little bit, I guess, if I want to. Because like I said, I'm not gonna. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that'll give me the room I need in front of the mounting rail, the engine rail, and then of course the propeller will be there, mounted. So now I just got to mark my locations for the screws or for the holes. All right, so the way I'm going to mark it is I'm going to use like this screwdriver. This is a good, not this one, this one. This is a good Phillips size screwdriver, because it goes inside the holes on the engine, and it's just round enough. It's kind of a perfect size that it fits in there without any kind of like, there's not a lot of room for it to move around. So it's easier if I use this Phillips screwdriver, for example, because it fits right in this hole nicely. And then it's already centered pretty much. So all I have to do is press down, and I can mark my locations where I want to drill it. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this one. It's going to be gentle. Do one over here. And I can always check it to make sure that it's in the right location too. All right, so there we go. Okay, cool. So you can barely see those. Probably won't be able to see them on camera. So I'm going to take this owl, whatever you want to call it, sharp pointy thing, and I'm going to put this in here. Mark these on here. Okay, so there's our marks that I got. Not sure if you could see them. They're pretty. I can see them fine, but they may not come on the camera. There's just 1, 2, 3, 4 sort of pilot marks there. And now what I'll do is I'll drill those out. So let me get my drill. Okay, so these mounting rails are a hardwood. I don't know what they are, if it's mahogany or what, but it's a hardwood. But I'm going to try to set some pilot holes. I'm going to try to drill these out with a smaller drill bit diameter, and that's going to be my pilot. And I'm going to try to do it, if I can, I'm going to try to do it by hand Yeah, it looks like it's going to work. And I can go ahead and I have more control this way than using a like a power tool, like a even the Dremel, even a small roto tool could give you some trouble. I want to make sure I don't have this thing go in on too bad of an angle. So I'm going to go ahead and get these pilot holes drilled. You see there. I'll work on those and I'll get those 4 pilot holes drilled, and then we'll come back and we'll drill them out with the right size drill bit for to match the bolt. Okay, well, this has proven to be a little bit difficult with this little pilot, with this pin vise. I'm kind of doing this and pressing down. So I'm going to go ahead and try with just use my my roto tool, and I'll just be careful with it and see if that works better. Okay, let's try this. Very careful. And what I like to do, if I can, is I like to set, when I'm drilling stuff, if I can put the drill bit on it and get it kind of set up before I then turn it on slowly, then that helps from, if this thing's on full power and I'm trying to get it to line up on a hole, sometimes it'll walk around. So if I can, I'll do something like this where I can just kind of get it, set it on top of here, start it slowly, and then just go for it from there. Here. All right, that looks good. So there's our 4 pilot holes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we'll go with our next size up, which is going to be the same size as the bolt. All right, so we got our next size drill bit up. I'm going to go ahead and place it on here carefully, and hopefully this works. Oh. I need to put more power on that one. Hold on a second. There we go. So the reason that was binding up like that was because I didn't have it at full. I didn't have it at full speed. I was trying to kind of find a happy medium because it was walking around and I wanted to get it into the wood. So I was going at a slower RPM, which meant it was less powerful. So as I was pushing it down, it was sort of getting bound up. But this should be good now for our bolts. Hey, what's up with that? Let's go here. Huh. I need a little bit. I think I need to kind of ream these out a little bit. Okay. Alright, so I got these things finally set in here. So let's try these bolts out. That was kind of a pain in the neck. Alright, so those are the 4 bolts in here. You can see. Maybe. Yeah, okay. So now we can go ahead and put the engine on. Okay, so I'm going to use a lock nut on each one of these. I mean a lock washer. I'm sorry, a lock washer on on the top, and I'm also going to use a lock washer on the bottom, and then two like a double nut, and I'm going to use some thread lock to help keep it tight. Okay, so there are the bolts with the lock washers in between the bolt head and the engine mount on the engine. I'm going to put this on here now. Okay. Good. All right, so you can see that on there now, and I'll go ahead and I'll put the nuts on the bottom. Okay, well I forgot I'm also going to be using these little flat washers up against the wood. So I'm going to put these on here. This is going to help prevent, or it's going to stop the lock washer itself from sort of jamming into the wood. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to put these guys on here. Then I'm going to put the lock washer on over that. Oop, there it goes. These are small little washers. There's one there. One here. One on there. And one here. There we go. Let me put this under here like this. And then I'm going to put a little drop of my Loctite on here. See how messy I can get this. All right, that's good. Good enough. And then we'll put our bolts on, our nuts on. Oof. Hand is all messed up here. Okay, I got the nuts on there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this all down, and then I'm going to put another nut, sort of like a lock nut almost, to finish it off. All right, so that's that for the engine mounting. The next step, what I have to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the gas tank or the fuel tank together and get that in, and then once that's in, we'll set the servos, and then we'll run the then we'll have to drill some holes out in the bulkheads and in the firewall for the connecting rod or the push rod for the throttle. So those are the next few steps here. Okay, so now the engine is mounted nicely and it's ready to go. So the next step is I'm going to go ahead and put the fuel tank in. And I do have this 8-ounce tank. As I mentioned before, I think the kit calls for like a 6-ounce. This will still fit. The 6-ounce is a little bit shorter, but this will fit in here okay. One thing I need to do is what I like to use is, this is a piece of scrap. This is just extruded foam insulation board material. And this is very light, but it's stiff and it's pretty strong. So I like to use this stuff sort of inside to help kind of brace things and to make little cradles and supports for things like the receiver and the battery. In this case, I'm going to put, because the tank is going to be a little bit elevated, a little bit off the floor of the fuselage, it's going to be a little bit higher. I'm going to put a little bit of the foam kind of in the bottom, just sort of to make like a little support for it. And I'll also put a couple small pieces inside the front, and just to show, this isn't going to be exact, but just to kind of have a couple little supports in the front, so the fuel tank doesn't kind of move back and forth, kind of keep it secure. So I kind of want to use so I'm going to use this stuff to sort of secure the fuel tank in here. So and then again, I have the little fuel dot that I'm going to install. And and that's probably going to go on this side. I like to keep like the muffler and the fuel dot on one side, and then the switch on the opposite side. So pretty much all the dirty stuff is happening on this side of the plane, the exhaust and any kind of fuel spills and things like that. And then over here, keep the switch kind of a little bit safer on the left side of the plane. So anyhow, so let me go ahead and we'll get this tank put together. All right, so let's look in our little kit here and see what we got. Pretty simple. I'll give you a little hardware package with this thing. So I'm going to have two lines coming out. Obviously, one goes to the throttle or to the carburetor, and then the other one's going to go to the muffler, which is going to be also going to pressurize the tank. And then we'll have the third one, which is going to be the refueler tube. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the, I guess they call this the clunk. This is just the weight that holds down the tube inside the tank and keeps it toward the back of the tank. Pop this on here. And I like to be real careful when I'm kind of putting, especially on when you put the tubing on here, that you don't cut the hose or the fuel tubing with the brass, because this can get kind of sharp, especially if you do cut it yourself and kind of make like a piece the size you need. Sometimes you can get a sharp edge, so you want to make sure that you have that kind of sanded down and filed down so it's not like a knife blade, and make it very, so you don't put a hole in your tubing that you can't see, and then you don't find that out until you try to start the engine or until you're flying or something. So that's on there like that. And then they give these little wires, dudes, to kind of just go around it to secure it on there. But you got to be careful too that you don't over tighten these little wires and cut into the tubing. I'm just going to twist them on here. This is so tight anyhow that I don't know how much it's needed, but yeah, so I just put a little bit on there, a little bit of a twist. I don't want to cut into the tubing. All right, so there's that one right there. Oops, if I can get it on there. Back here, I don't know. All right, so there's that side. So obviously this is going to go in here. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put I have to poke a third hole in here. Usually they come with two holes already poked in them, and then for the third you have to poke it yourself. They have room back. Usually they have a hole in the back for it, but it's sealed in the front. So you want to poke that through for your third piece of tubing. Let me see if I can do it through the top here. I may have to cut it, I'm not sure. Let's see. There it goes. So I got this guy here. And I'm going to give myself some room to work. Put that one on. And what I'm going to do is once I get these in here, I'm probably going to have to cut one of these in half for my third, because they only give me two lengths. So let me cut one of these down a little bit. Okay, so I cut that off with the tool there, and now I'm just going to go ahead and carefully try to I rounded off the edges, just sanded those down so they're relatively smooth, and then I'm going to go inside with this needle file. Oops, and I'm just going to try to kind of pull out some of the little burrs and then blow that out so that at least I don't have little pieces going into the engine or anything like that. So you want to keep this clean. All right, so there's that one. And then I'll do one more short one. This will work right here. Let me clean off the end of it. These two can be short. One can be the carburetor, and one can be the refueler. And then I need a longer one because it has to make a bend in it to go up into a little, so it has the vent up on top. So I'll save this one for the muffler because it's the longer one. All right, let's clean this one up. Okay, so those two are going to be the for the carburetor and then for the refueling part. So I like to keep the one up on top keep it oriented like this, and then the top one is going to be what goes for the vent tube and for the muffler connection. This is always kind of a pain in the butt right here because you have to kind of estimate and work with it. So I'm going to put this one in like this. And now I just need to bend this, kind of estimate. And this is sort of a trial and error thing to kind of get it to fit the right spot. So I'm just going to go ahead and estimate where it's got to go. I'm just going to bend it. I don't have one of those special bending tool things. So I'm going to say about there, right about there. So hopefully we got close on that. We'll see. Boy, you know what? I just made a mistake. My mistake was I need to have this on here first before I bend it. All right, so I'm going to have to pull this out. Right about there. Boom. Yeah, that's going to go here, so I'm just going to put this in here. Boom. So I don't know if you can see that around the camera, but basically you can see the tubing is right up into this little bubble up here. Okay, so now we know that's good. So we got to pull it back out now. Okay, so now we can put our other tubing on here. Right, so at this point I'm going to put this on this little retainer, just loose. I'm not going to tighten it up at all. If you tighten it up, you won't be able to get it into the tank. But let me see if I can tighten this up. Now it's going to get in there, so it's kind of, it's going to get it to grab onto there so that we have it already in there. And I try to make my dude straight up and down, like that right there. So now I have to make the adjustment, or now I have to cut this inside tubing to the right length. You want it to be not all the way back. You don't want it up against the back. Maybe just so it's just, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or so off the back. So I'm going to estimate right about, let me use the light. Okay, let me just take a little bit of this off of here. And here we go. Let's put this on this one. It needs to be able to go, it needs to be able to move freely back there inside the tank, so that as the plane is doing maneuvers and everything, the fuel tubing doesn't get stuck in one spot. So let's go ahead and pop this in here, right about there. Let's see. All right, that's pretty good. So now you can see that. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there, and it can move. It needs to be able to flop back and forth. Okay, good. That's good. So I got to take this back out now. So I say it's always a trial and error kind of thing. And now I can put the little sort of retaining wire on here carefully. And again, I don't want to go too tight with this. Just to give it a little bit of a indentation on the tubing. In fact, I don't even know sometimes if I even want to do this. Don't want to cut this stuff. A little bit of a, yeah, just barely. Okay. Right there, okay. Pull this off here. Okay, so there's our, so this is going to be what's going to the carburetor. Now I need another length, and this length isn't actually really that important, since this is going to be the, in fact I don't even need to do anything for this. This is going to be for the refueler, and it doesn't need to go in it because it just goes straight into the tank. So I think we're good. Okay, so one thing I like to do, especially when I'm in the assembly process, is I like to draw a little sketch. Put a piece of tape on the top of my tank, and I like to draw a little sketch looking forward at the connections coming out of the tank so that I can keep track of them. I have a tendency to sort of forget which one's which, and then I have to kind of look at it and mess around with it. I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a little diagram so that I know what is what. So I'm going to put an M here for muffler. This one over here, this one down here is going to be for the carburetor, and this one's going to be for the fuel, like that. So I draw that, oops, on my tank. So when this is in here and I'm looking at it, I know, maybe I'll put a little T for top just to be extra. And I'll do that right there. So I know that when I'm looking at this and I have hoses coming out of here, I don't have to second guess which one is which. So I'll do that right there. Now let's just get this in here. Like that. Careful. Okay, make sure everything's not turning in here. Okay, let me check this real quick. I like to blow in these to make sure they're not plugged up or something. That's good there. This one should be good here. That's good there. All right, those are all good to go. All right, so I had to pull it back out because the muffler tubing was too high up and it was sort of not giving enough airflow around it. So when I was did like a pressure test on it, it was a little bit restricted. So I did that, I pulled it out, it cut a little bit off, and now it does pretty good when it has a lot of free flow. So now I can go ahead and put this guy on here. Hold this straight actually so it doesn't turn while I'm doing it. And this is one of the things where I have to be really careful because you can strip out that, it's just plastic, you know, so what it's screwing into. So you don't want to over tighten it. You want to get it snug, but not over tighten. So it's always a little bit of a, as long as it doesn't leak, you're good. So there we go. All right, so the tank is now assembled and I have my little diagram so I know where things go. And now I have to just put it in here and we'll put our tubing on and get it all hooked up. Okay, well off camera I've been working with the tank and I had to make some adjustments, which is typical. So now I have the fuel tubing connected to the tank. This one that's sort of going up, this is going to be for the refueler. Now I was installing the refueler and I'm going to have to say that I'm not going to use this, and I don't recommend generally using this type of refueler. This is the first time I've had it. And then what I realized is that the way this works is this screws in. You know, you put your fuel tube on here, it goes through here, you put your fuel tube on and you fuel up and then you reconnect your fuel tube. Maybe I should get a piece of that to show you. All right, so you take your fuel tube goes through here, and then you put this little stopper on it like that. And then you take it out, you know, obviously you take it out, you refuel, then you put this back in. And when you push this in and then you screw it, the way it works is it screws it in like that. Now it doesn't seem like a big deal, but actually the 2 or 3 turns that it takes to screw this in ends up twisting the inside, the fuel tubing inside, and you end up with sort of like a curly Q. It looks like a pretzel in there. And so I don't think that's a really good idea. And so I'm just gonna not use this, but I am gonna use at least the stopper part of it, and I can just tuck that in here. So once I refuel, I can refuel and use the stopper part of it. All right, so this is just gonna go on here like this, like that, and I'll just leave that, and then it'll be inside the compartment, and I'll just kind of tuck it around like that instead of having to deal with it. Now the other type of fuel dots you see just press in, they don't screw in, and that's probably a better option, at least for this kit. All right, so the other thing I did kind of off camera was I did install some, oops, hopefully you can see in here, I installed some foam in here, and that foam is just to support the kind of make like a little cradle for the fuel tank. And I also made this thing that looks like a little couch. This little thing right here. And this is going to go behind it in here and support sort of the back of the tank. Now these I glued these ones in. This one I'll probably just press in. And by the time I get everything set up, I do use little blocks of foam like this to kind of get things secured. And when I have the receiver and the battery and everything in here, I'll have sort of like a series, and I'll have like you know, just some blocks and things like this. I'll just press them in around things to secure it, but I don't typically glue them. So now I can go ahead and put the tank in. All right, so this is a little bit of a tight fit because I did have an 8-ounce tank, like I said, or this is an 8-ounce tank. So I slide it back in here, like so. And that's like get it back like that. And then I just fish my tubing through here. There we go. Pink. And this one's going to go. So again, look at my little diagram. So again, I have that little diagram that I drew on here, so I remember which one's which, because my memory is not the greatest. So then I slide it in here like that. Okay. And then I have like this little piece, which I'm going to just stick back here and just pop it under here to support like that. I just press it in. So there's my tank. So there's the tank installed in there. Not pretty good. And like I said, I'll just refuel it, and then I'll just tuck this down in here. So I can pull it out, I can pop this off of here and refuel it, and then just pop that in here and close it up. And then I'm not going to connect these yet. This goes to the muffler, this goes to the carburetor. I'll do that later. But for right now though, the tank is installed and the engine's installed. Alright, so I didn't get as far as long as I wanted to in this video. It took me a while to do some of these things, but I did get the fuel tank installed, the engine installed, did put these decals on. So coming up next is now probably just going to be the servos, the battery, the receiver, and then the connecting rods. Also for the aileron servo has to go in. So hopefully that'll be it before I can start trying to get this thing do whatever final checks I need to start getting this thing ready for its first flight. But we're getting closer. It's taking some time, but yeah, we keep moving. All right, well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.